Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. It is just an honor to have Raymond Ibrahim, author, speaker, and an individual that is truly an expert and specializes in the persecution of Christians in Muslim-dominant countries. Raymond, welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Denice. Good to be with you again.
Good to have you, sir. Silent Night. Ladies and gentlemen, Silent Night, persecuted Palestinian Christians kept out of sight. I want to ask you about this latest article that everyone can find and read at RaymondIbrahim.com. RaymondIbrahim.com. Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. This is something that all of you need to take to your churches and to your synagogues and pray. You know, there's so much persecution right now. It's Hanukkah. This is the first day of Hanukkah. I know Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. Ambassador David Friedman just lit the first candle on the menorah for Israel today, and in addition to that persecution against the Jewish people is this terrible persecution against Christians. And Raymond, you've written another excellent piece on Christians that are being silenced into silenced and kept, really, it sounds like, inside their homes, inside their businesses. They have to keep their head down for fear that anybody would find out they were Christian. I wanted to ask you, on the second page in your report, you said that those who convert to Christianity from Islam, those living in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank and Gaza, that their lives are so dangerous that they live their Christian faith in total secrecy. My question to you, Raymond, is this all Christians or just Muslim converts to Christianity?
Well, the general persecution of Christians in the Middle East in general, and under the Palestinian Authority regions in particular, are always worse for converts who are seen as apostates. So if you're born to a Muslim father, you're automatically a Muslim. Okay. And if you leave that religion and become a Christian or anything else other than Islam, then you definitely will get attacked, because that's in keeping with Islamic law, Islamic doctrine, which is very hostile to the apostate up to the point of execution, according to certain interpretations. So definitely you'll find that Christians who were formerly Muslims throughout the Islamic world face or are more persecuted than born Christians are.
Okay. There was a report you cited by a Dr. Eddie Cohen, was published by the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. Can you tell us, the story in your own words? This was not reported in the mainstream media. Tell us about the residents of a Christian village near Ramallah, because I was not familiar. I've been to the Middle East several times. Wasn't familiar, sir, with this Christian village of Jifna near Ramallah, an attack by Muslim gunmen. Could you tell us about that?
Well, the report you're referring to was written over the summer of this year in 2019.
Okay.
And what's interesting about it is he highlights he shows you the kind of persecution that Christians suffer in the regions you mentioned, and he actually lists 3 attacks that happened in about 3 weeks. So the point is, it shows you that it's happening and it's frequent, but it also shows you how all the things that he mentioned were not reported in any mainstream media. And so even more so than the attacks on Christians, say, living in Egypt or anywhere else in the Middle East, who don't get much, don't get coverage in the mainstream media, the Palestinians are especially silenced, so that if you do any research, you're not going to find much. And it may seem to you that maybe for some reason Palestinian Christians are not suffering what their co-religionists all around the Islamic world are. But as he shows in our report, they are. And I think the more important point is why you don't hear about it. And of course, the reason is because the media is dedicated to presenting the Palestinians in general, who of course are overwhelmingly Muslims, right, as oppressed victims. Now, it's going to be a problem to pass that narrative if you find out that these supposedly oppressed victims are oppressing their own minorities simply because of religious differences.
Right.
So I think so the whole point is it's being really suppressed because it could damage the Palestinian cause in the world's eyes if people understood that Palestinians themselves are persecuting just on account of religion.
And they're not just persecuting, they're murdering people for their faith. I thought it was fascinating that in this report that you brought to all of us here in the United States, that the leader of this Muslim mob, a group of gunmen who came to this Christian village, apparently the report says it's a Fatah affiliated leader that attacked a Christian woman's family for reporting to the police about a terrible incident that she and her family had suffered. And in this report, it says dozens of these Fatah gunmen came to the village, fired hundreds of bullets in the air. I can't imagine people driving into my neighborhood and pulling out their guns and firing hundreds of bullets into the air. And it says they threw petrol bombs and caused tremendous damage. And in the report, it says it was a miracle no one was killed. Raymond, isn't it interesting that the Palestinian Authority, its political party that runs the Palestinian Authority, that's supposed to be negotiating with the Israelis, is Fatah? That's what's so fascinating about this, is we have people in the mainstream media want to talk about the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis sitting down and talking peace, but this is the military arm of the political party Fatah, and they're driving gunmen into villages to shoot up Christian communities. Your thoughts, Raymond?
Well, that particular anecdote, basically, it also highlights again what happens to Christians, because all that woman did and her family is protest against what the Fatah was doing, including loud noise and this sort of thing. Now, if she was a Muslim woman, it probably wouldn't have been a problem. But because she's seen as a second-class citizen, as an inferior Christian, as a so-called dhimmi, okay, that provoked a lot of outrage. How dare she, make any complaints about us? So that's why they came up. They responded with the whole shooting guns in the air and that sort of thing. But they also went on, to really underscore the idea that they're dhimmis by making them pay tribute or jizya.
Yes.
So they took extortion money also afterwards from the people of that region, all because she just said something like, "You're making too much noise." Now, and again, if this was a Muslim woman, that would not have happened, because the whole thing is associated with the fact that she should be lucky to be tolerated at all. So how dare she even complain?
I think it's incredible that the jizya, which is really what I understand to be a head tax, that Christians or Jews living in Muslim countries have to pay just to survive. And you're right, it's like paying the mafia off. It's extortion money to be protected from being killed or beaten up. Tell us about that Maronite community. So there's Catholics, there's Maronites, there's the Anglicans, there's Protestants, there's all these very, very small and dwindling Christian communities under Palestinian control. Is that correct?
Yes, and they're all, on the verge of disappearing. It's interesting because, Christmas is in a couple of days, and Christmas, of course, revolves around Bethlehem. That's the literal birthplace of Christianity, the birthplace of Christ. And even there, the presence of Christianity is rapidly dwindling into non-existence. And that itself, is another point. When you look at the numbers issue and you find out that in the Palestinian regions, okay, if anything, numbers are growing, population. But when you look at the Christian demographic, it keeps going down. So why is that? It suggests that Christians are suffering some unpleasantry that the majority are not suffering. That's making them flee, making them convert, or whatever. So even in the numbers, you can see a reflection of the sufferings or persecution they're going through.
Is it difficult for a Christian living in a Palestinian-controlled area in Judea and Samaria, again, the West Bank or Gaza? Is it difficult for a family, for a man or woman or child to escape from those areas?
Oh, absolutely. It's,
okay.
And because also remember, for the Christian will most likely be amongst the poorest of the society, with the least means, with probably no access to transportation, no access to, anything. So it becomes very hard. So they essentially get swallowed up one way or another. Often, sometimes they just convert, and of course, that's the story of Islam's spread throughout the formerly Christian lands of North
Right.
Africa and the Middle East. People,
Right.
you look at Morocco, Algeria, there's no Christians anymore, not indigenous anyway.
Right.
Even though they used to be entirely Christian. So you can see again, history is repeating itself in one way or another.
I'm wondering if some people, I imagine that there are some stories that are fascinating of people who just converted for the sake of appearances, and when they had the resources, then left Palestinian controlled areas, went into Israel, and then claimed back their Christianity. I wonder how many times that happens, Raymond.
Well, the sort of like clandestine thing happens to a degree, but the danger in that, which I've seen and which has been reported, is if a family does it for too long, then the children really grow up almost like Muslims. Because no matter how much, if you hide it, even if you're doing it at home or whatever, it's still, there's that threat. So it generally doesn't happen by people who are actually trying to live out their Christianity. It happens more by nominal Christians, born Christians,
Okay.
and then eventually they're the ones who get absorbed or conflated, and the ones who don't are the ones who stand out
And are
eventually,
killed.
or driven out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. So I guess the bottom line is we need to really make a clarion call to those here in the Western world and to the media to please report on the horrific persecution of Christians, especially in these Palestinian controlled areas where the media is not touching it in order to promote the Palestinian cause. Raymond Ibrahim, last thought?
Well, I was just going to read you a quick quote from Justice Reed Weiner, who's a lawyer and a
Okay.
scholar of the region. He writes, quote, "The systematic persecution of Christian Arabs living in Palestinian areas is being met with nearly total silence by the international community, human rights activists, the media, and NGOs. In a society where Arab Christians have no voice and no protection, it is no surprise that they are leaving." And he's referring to what I'm talking about, how the numbers are rapidly dwindling.
Yes, and of course we see that in Egypt and other places too throughout the Middle East. And that individual's name again is Justin, you said?
Justice Reed Weiner.
Justice Reed Weiner. Thank you very much. Raymond, we so appreciate your reports on the persecution of Christians, and we're sorry to hear this, and we really need to keep these people in our thoughts and prayers. Raymond, you have a very blessed and wonderful Christmas on this Christmas Eve today. We want to wish you all the best. Thank you, sir.
You too, Denice. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, I also wanted to share, when we finish that, he just had a little bit of time today. Another report that just came out today, and I asked him before we went live about an Arab who sold some land to Jews. Now, I don't know if he was a Christian or not. We don't know. Again, this report just came out, but an Arab was arrested, incarcerated on the conviction of selling some land to some Jewish people in Israel. This is an Arab Israeli selling some land. Maybe he sold his house. I don't know. We all sell our houses, right, or businesses here in America. Well, he was convicted, and apparently he was killed in prison. It says he was taken to a hospital from his prison cell just 2 weeks ago. He was pronounced dead on Sunday. The bottom line is, if you understand what a prison is like, in an area controlled by Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement, which controls the Gaza Strip area, it's just a living nightmare. People that have gotten out of Palestinian-controlled prisons say it's torture the moment you arrive until the day if and when you get out. It's that bad. And it's worse for Christians. And I wanted to tell you about another case, just very briefly, an Arab American that was living in Jerusalem. His name is Issam Akil. He holds both an Israeli ID card and American citizenship. Was dragged out of his place. I believe it was his place of residence, He was dragged into Palestinian Authority controlled area. He was stood in front of a Palestinian Authority court in Ramallah, and he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison with hard labor for selling land to some Jewish individuals there in Israel. And if it wasn't for the enormous pressure placed by the United States government, this American citizen, Arab American citizen, would not be free today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening to the Denice Gary Show. Tomorrow I'm going to have a special on Hanukkah. Hanukkah began Sunday evening. There's a tremendous amount going on in Israel today. As you know, they came under a missile attack just last week. So much going on there. We hope to talk about tomorrow, and a special Christian tribute for Christmas for this Wednesday. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message. Thank you.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go, Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denice sent you. Salute. Bon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Anatase Products. That is a forward-leaning manufacturer of all kinds of hardware needs that are used in anything that flies, in our satellites and military equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to contact Scott Baker, former Marine Corps officer and president of Anatase Products at 661 area code 822-6873. 661-822-6873. This is located in Eastern Kern County, the hub of the aerospace industry here in California. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Please keep Christians at this particular time in your thoughts and prayers. There's tremendous persecution in places throughout the Muslim world, particularly Egypt and Pakistan, but all over and in these Palestinian controlled areas, and of course those small Jewish communities that are still left in some, not all, but in some of the Muslim countries. Most have fled over the years and escaped with their lives, but there are still small pockets of Jewish communities, people that have family, maybe family that's been too old to travel, too old to make the kind of journey that you have to make when you're fleeing for your life. Those kinds of trips are not easy for Jewish families to make, say out of a country like Yemen or Iraq, where I believe there's still a handful of Jews left. It's very dangerous, and it's expensive. People have to be bribed. They have to be paid off along the way. It's a dangerous journey. So you can pray that Christians and Jews escape from countries where they're under horrific persecution, where their families have been threatened with death. Like you'd also pray for Afghans and Christians in Afghanistan. That's another very dangerous place, and I don't know if you're aware of it. I just had a conversation with my friend and contact from Afghanistan this morning on the phone. Things are terribly dangerous in Kabul. He has family there that are Muslims, but nevertheless, things are. If you're a Muslim in name only, if you're a nominal Muslim or you're a Muslim associated with the Afghan government, things are extremely dangerous right now. You've got to have bodyguards and you've got to stay off the streets, and a lot of people are just holed up in their homes. They're so afraid to go out. Families, children, living like that inside Afghanistan today. Please pray for those that are truly suffering, and not in a country as wonderful as the United States, as exceptional as the United States, where we walk outside our home, we get in our car, we go shopping if we can, we go shopping, or we go out to dinner, or we do what we need to do, because we live in a free country where there's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, for the most part, unless you're in a school like I am, and then you've got to be very politically correct. But there's still basically freedom of speech in the press, and freedom of assembly, and the right to peacefully protest. And thank God for those freedoms at this particular time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Denice Scary Show, and we will look forward to being right back with you tomorrow. Thank you.